Good morning, everybody. Enter the stars. And I decided to pre-record this show for you guys today. Got a couple things I got to do this morning, so hopefully I'll be in the chat with you. I'll make it back in time or on my way over there. But I wanted to go over this dunce cap. And there's a lot going on with this dunce cap. And this is the pointed hat. And what this triggers for me is an image of a needle. It represents something coming in as well as something going out. Did you know that the dunce cap was originally fashioned to receive a signal? Now, I didn't know this. I just found this out during my research about the dunce cap, which was originated by a man named Dunce Scotus. And basically, he had fashioned the cap as a receiver. Reminds me of the two necessary components of the final possession of mankind, doesn't it? Which includes a delivery device, a pointed delivery device, as well as a receiver. Now, what you probably didn't know is that there's actually what's called a dunce day. What is Dunce Day about? Well, Dunce Day falls on November 8th. And it just so happened to be Election Day 2016, the year that Trump was elected, fell on Dunce Day. Now, we're going to read about the origins of the dunce cap, and this is going to blow you away, because I believe that the dunce cap was the origins of the tinfoil hat, and that by them kind of pinning this particular image of the tinfoil hat on us, people like us who are awake, it's almost mockery. And in fact, the original dunce cap ended up becoming a symbol of mockery, but before that, it was a symbol of enlightenment and respect. Let's read through this. From the Victorian era to the middle of the 20th century, the dunce cap was placed upon the heads of American, French, and English schoolchildren who were causing disruptions or performing poorly in their studies. Students wore the long pointy hat while standing or sitting on a stool. This was a form of humiliating punishment that also separated troublemakers from the rest of the class, as they were positioned in a corner apart from everyone else. Public memory of this punishment is kept alive in movies, shows, and other forms of pop culture. Yet, the hat's meaning between the 1800s and today is wildly different from what it meant at its genesis around the time of the turn of the 14th century. In the late 13th century, the Scotsman John Duns Scotus was a theologian, philosopher, and educator in France. He grew famous for his brilliance and nuance, crafting arguments on free will, semantics, and linguistics, the existence of God, cognition, and more. One of the most prominent arguments defended the Immaculate Conception, the idea that the Virgin Mary was born unaffected by the original sin of Adam, according to Britannica. Scotus soon had a following. His students were called Dunsmen, and according to Slate, they adorned tall, pointy hats. Scotus and his disciples saw the caps as symbolizing wisdom and knowledge, as well as signaling allegiance to the new philosophy of Scotism. It has even been suggested Scotus thought the shape of the cap would somehow help funnel outside knowledge into the head. That's right, the dunce cap was first a mark of high intelligence, the complete opposite of its modern connotation. Now, the article goes on to basically explain that at a certain point, people stopped believing in all of this, and then people would don the dunce cap as humiliation in memory of some of these outdated techniques to capture intelligence. Now, here's the interesting thing. There was a man who would inject things to cure disease in the film Omega Man. That man was Charlton Heston, and he wore the dunce cap. Omega Man was the Apollo man, wasn't he? Now, why do I say that? Well, Apollo said, "I am the Alpha and the Omega." And of course he isn't, but that's what he claimed. Now, it's well known in Gnostic circles that they believe that Jesus is Apollo, but nowhere in the Bible does it say that. In fact, it says there is only one I am, one Alpha and Omega, and that is Jesus Christ. Now, it's funny because, as you guys know, I get called names sometimes. I get called a Gnostic, but it makes me laugh because I actually stand up for Jesus, and I clearly differentiate the pagan belief systems from the truth about the Bible. We never mix the two. Now, here's where your mind's going to be blown, because I believed that we have solved exactly what the Aleph and the Omega symbols of the Alpha and the Omega truly mean. Here they are right here, the Alpha and the Omega. And remember, everything that God does that is good, so the Alpha and the Omega is Jesus, right? He's the beginning and the end. He can cure all. Well, Apollo wants to be the Alpha and the Omega. And guess what these symbols represent? The Alpha is the hypodermic needle, or the phallic, and the Omega is the womb. Now, here are some images of the Alpha inside the Omega, which would confirm this theory. And now your brain's starting to turn, because now you're realizing that you've seen the Alpha and the Omega before in the trilon and perisphere of the World's Fair. Now, here's what makes this trilon and perisphere very, very spooky. The fact that they were actually already talking about polio at this World's Fair. They had an exhibit that showed childhood polio. This was long before the first outbreak. Look at this. Look at these pictures. What you're looking at is the Alpha and the Omega. Apollyon, a polio. This was the beginning, and now we're at the end. The seed of the serpent inside the womb of the woman. Now, how is it that it took this long for us to figure all this out? Why haven't we picked up on this by now? Well, of course, it's not us figuring this out, right? This is definitely divinely inspired information. Now, I took a closer look at the Polio World's Fair of 1939. This is a 3D image of it. And I actually counted the sections of this, I guess you call it design here. Here's the needle and the womb. And the ball doesn't quite look like an omega, but it could be. And of course, the needle is an alpha for sure. But look at this. I actually counted these sections around this thing, and there are 19 sections around the base of the perisphere. 19-year cycles, COVID-19, and all the other 19s that go along with that. And then I counted the dots on top of the perisphere, and there are 16. Now, what's interesting about this World's Fair is there were exactly 33 countries represented in this World's Fair. So, do you think this is about Apollo? I think it truly is about Apollo and their plans for the future of the world. So, think of it this way. The dunce cap would be the trilon, this pointed object. The perisphere would be your skull, and then the needle would be atop your skull. So you have both receiver and delivery device. And if we think about the fact that presidents are said to don the dunce cap, that would then infer that they are receiving some kind of signal, wouldn't it? Which I believe is the demonic possession at the election day. And this is probably why election day falls very closely to the date of Dunce Day. An election is basically a knockoff on God's elect. It has to be. So the elections are Satan's elect versus God's elect. So this is pretty much what I had on the dunce cap. I wanted to go over this with you as we are entering that time of the year. We've covered this before, but this was crazy. Now let's get into some other things, some other recent headlines that have been going on, because Prince Andrew is back in the news. And apparently he's come out of the shadows. It's the first time he's been speaking out about everything that happened. Well, he hasn't really talked about what happened, but he showed up to the Queen's funeral yesterday. And not only did he show up to the Queen's funeral, but somehow he was able to wear his military uniform, which he was supposed to be banned from, wasn't he? And he posted some stuff on social media. This is a picture of him with Queen Elizabeth trying to use the death of the Queen to soften his image. A lot of people are upset about this because he was not supposed to be allowed to wear his military uniform. But, you know, what are they going to say? It's the Queen's funeral. And so he's getting away with it. So what was supposed to be a slap on the wrist, it was now all been absolved, it seems like. I'm sure that Prince Charles will have some different feelings about his banishment. Might even bring him back. Who knows? But this is cringy. It's creepy. And it goes to show you that the elite go by different rules than the rest of us, don't they? Now, this is a short show today, but I wanted to show you this last thing here. This is actually really crazy because here we are, back to the future. And hover bikes are now a real thing. Check this out. Sci-Fi becomes reality as hover bike takes off in Michigan. I don't know if any of you live in Michigan, but this is what's going on. And there's a little video clip here of this thing. Let's take a look at this. Okay, we got to refresh it, I guess. Did this last time. Let's take a look at this thing. Kansas City Star hover bikes. Look at this guy. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I got the sound off, so you're not going to hear anything. So it's basically, it looks like a drone. It looks like it's got fans or jets. Whoa. You could tell this guy's scared. Look at him. He's like shaking. He's like, I'm not too sure about this, but it works. You guys, we're fast approaching the Star Wars scenario or Blade Runner. This reminds me of scenes like that. Thing doesn't look too stable yet, but I'm sure they'll work on that with time. But there's the new hover bikes. Wow. Crazy times, you guys. Anyway, that's all I had for you. We'll be back on tomorrow with more Between the Headlines. I'm also decoding some of these films and TV series. I was decoding the TV series called Devil in Ohio, and it's creepy. I didn't capture any clips just because it's just more of the same. You know, some of the stuff I don't need to be showing you guys over and over again, but they worship the morning star. And of course, you know what the morning star is. It's Lucifer. They even name Lucifer. And it's pretty much just a bunch of witchcraft, like this girl who escapes this cult basically does witchcraft on this family to get her to accept her, to get them to accept her. And that's pretty much what's going on with that series. So I probably won't do any screen capture on that series because it's kind of difficult to do on Netflix anyway. So that's about it, you guys. I love each and every one of you. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care and be safe, you guys.